Picture this: a beautiful day, the sun shining, a gentle breeze rustling through the grass, and a fly lazily buzzing by your ear. It's the kind of peaceful moment that makes you want to pause and soak in the beauty of the countryside, where everything seems safe and serene. But this isn't just any ordinary fly. Look closer. It shimmers in the sunlight, a metallic blue-green jewel with fiery red eyes that almost seem to glow. It's beautiful, but there's something unsettling about it, something that hints at a darker side. Its name? Cochleomya hominivorax, better known as the man-eater, a name that sends a chill down the spine of anyone who knows its story. For decades, this tiny creature was a source of terror across the Americas. A real-life monster hiding in plain sight, haunting ranches and farms from Texas to South America. The New World screwworm didn't care about your food or your crops. It was after warm-blooded life: cows, deer, dogs, sheep, wildlife, and even people. No animal was truly safe. All it needed was a tiny break in the skin, a scratch from a fence, a tick bite, or the vulnerable navel of a newborn calf. Even the smallest wound was an open invitation. The female fly would land and lay hundreds of eggs in the wound, sometimes in just seconds, and that's when the real horror began. The eggs hatched into larvae, screwworms, born hungry for living flesh. Not just decaying matter like most maggots, but living, breathing tissue. They burrowed deep, tearing and consuming, creating a gruesome, festering crater in their host. The wound would grow larger every day, attracting even more flies. Animals became living nurseries for their own destroyers, suffering constant agony, unable to escape the relentless pain as the larvae fed. Before we fought back, the screwworm was a catastrophe. Ranchers in Texas or Florida could lose entire herds in a single season, watching helplessly as animal after animal fell victim. The economic toll was staggering, with millions lost each year, but the suffering of the animals, and the people who cared for them, was even worse. Ranchers spent their days searching for infected animals, their nights haunted by the sounds of pain and the fear of what they'd find at sunrise. It was a relentless, gruesome, and seemingly unstoppable plague, one that threatened the very foundation of rural life. But then, against all odds, science found a way to fight back, sparking a battle that would change the fate of the Americas forever. The female screwworm fly possesses an extraordinary sense of smell, able to detect the faintest scent of a wound from astonishing distances, even across open fields or pastures. Drawn by this invisible signal, she lands and quickly lays about 200 tiny eggs at the very edge of raw, exposed flesh. Within just a day, these eggs hatch into hungry larvae. Unlike most maggots, these larvae don't feed on dead or decaying tissue. They crave healthy, living flesh, making them uniquely destructive among parasites. They burrow deep into the wound, breathing through their tails which poke out from the flesh and give the wound a grotesque pulsating appearance. As they feed, the larvae secrete powerful enzymes that liquefy muscle and tissue, causing the wound to expand rapidly and ooze foul-smelling fluids. The stench of the wound attracts even more screwworm flies, turning a single injury into a communal infestation that can quickly spiral out of control. In severe cases, thousands of larvae can infest a single animal, leading to overwhelming infection, massive fluid loss, and unimaginable agony for the victim. If left untreated, the relentless feeding of the larvae almost always leads to death within weeks, devastating herds and livelihoods. Pesticides offered little help. The larvae were safely hidden deep inside the flesh, shielded from chemicals and sprays. The only effective treatment was to physically remove every single worm by hand. A gruesome, painstaking, and daily battle for farmers and veterinarians alike. The screwworm wasn't just a pest, it was a relentless siege, threatening entire herds and the people who depended on them. Fighting the screwworm required a smarter approach. Traditional methods, like spraying chemicals or burning infested livestock, were costly, dangerous, and often ineffective. Scientists needed a breakthrough, something that could outsmart the pest at its own game. In the 1950s, scientists Edward Knipling and Raymond Bushland found a crucial weakness. Female screwworms mate only once in their lives. This insight would become the foundation for a revolutionary idea. What if her only mate was sterile? She'd lay eggs that never hatched, wasting her one and only chance at reproduction. The population would plummet, generation by generation. The plan was bold: flood the environment with sterile males, tricking the species into breeding itself into extinction. It was a radical shift from killing pests to outwitting them. How could they do it? By exposing screwworm pupae to carefully measured doses of gamma radiation, making them sterile but still healthy and eager to mate. The process was precise, requiring careful calibration. These males were indistinguishable from wild ones, perfect decoys, able to compete for mates in the wild without raising suspicion among the females. Release enough sterile males, and wild females would almost always mate with them, leaving fewer and fewer fertile eggs in each new generation. It was a numbers game, using the fly's own biology against it and relying on careful calculations to tip the balance. The idea was genius, audacious, and ready for a real-world test. The scientific community watched with anticipation. The question remained: would it work outside the lab, in the unpredictable conditions of the real world? The answer would change pest control forever, offering hope to farmers and ranchers everywhere. The stage was set for a bold experiment, one that would test the limits of science and ingenuity. The battle was about to begin, and the world was watching. The first test was on Curaçao, a small Caribbean island plagued by screwworms. Scientists raised screwworms in labs, sterilized the pupae with radiation, and released the adult flies from planes. Week after week, hundreds of sterile flies per square kilometer blanketed the island. Soon, egg cases found on animals stopped hatching. Sterile males were winning. Within months, screwworms were eradicated from Curaçao. Success proved the technique worked. Next target: the southeastern U.S., starting with Florida. A massive fly factory was built, producing 50 million sterile flies weekly. Planes crisscrossed the skies, releasing a silent army of sterile insects. The campaign expanded, pushing the screwworm out of the U.S. Science had turned the tide. The fight was scaling up. The real challenge was just beginning. With the U.S. screwworm free by 1959, the program moved to the American Southwest and Mexico. A new, larger fly factory in southern Mexico produced 150 million sterile flies per week. Fleets of planes dropped flies in a slow, methodical wave, pushing the eradication line south. By 1984, all of Mexico was screwworm free. The campaign continued through Central America, clearing country after country. But South America's vast rainforests made total eradication impossible. The solution: a permanent barrier at the Darien Gap in Panama. A state-of-the-art factory near Panama City now produces 100 million sterile flies weekly. These are released as a continuous curtain over the jungle, blocking any northward invasion. The wall of flies became a living shield. For decades, it held strong. For years, the biological wall kept screwworms at bay, but sometimes, the barrier failed. In 1988, screwworms reached Libya, threatening Africa's livestock. An emergency airlift sent millions of sterile flies from Mexico to Libya. In 4 months, the outbreak was stopped. Africa was saved. Closer to home, in 2016, screwworms reappeared in Florida, killing endangered key deer. The Panama factory ramped up, sterile flies were released, and the outbreak was contained. But in late 2023, disaster struck. The wall in Panama failed. Screwworms surged north through Panama and into Costa Rica, even reaching Mexico's border. The decades-long peace was shattered. The Panama facility is now running at full capacity, desperately trying to rebuild the barrier. It's a fierce, ongoing battle. The threat is real, and the fight is far from over. Science is racing to hold the line. The screwworm story is more than a creepy tale. It's a lesson in science and vigilance. Human ingenuity turned a nightmare into a model for pest control worldwide. But the war isn't over. As long as screwworms exist, the threat remains. Global travel and climate change mean new outbreaks are always possible. Constant vigilance and international cooperation are essential. The sterile insect technique now protects crops and health worldwide. We use the fly's own biology as its undoing, a poetic solution. The fight continues quietly, every day. Scientists, veterinarians, and pilots are the guardians of the wall. For now, the wall holds. But the battle never truly ends.